But until that happens, there are actions I have the legal authority to take as president, the same kinds of actions taken by Democratic and Republican presidents before me, that will help make our immigration system more fair and more just.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Queen's Grapevine. This is your host, Wallingford Lee. Tonight on the Queen's Grapevine, we're going to be talking about immigration issues for 2014. Most of you know by now that on November 20th, the president of this great nation, Barack Obama, went on the air talking about the various immigration issues that he has presented over and over to Congress. And the Republicans have tried in more ways than one to put a knife into the program. Well, the presidents have stepped up to the plate and came through with a program that he's presented as a president, and he has the authority to do that by the name of DAPA. We're going to take the opportunity tonight on the Queen's Grapevine to talk about this program, DAPA, how it works, who qualifies, the pros and minus. It goes without saying that we have close to probably about 7 million people supposedly who are here illegally in this nation. But all of us need to remember that this is a nation of foreigners. Everyone has an ancestor that came from somewhere. Well, in today's situation, the immigration situation has been more of a Latino Caribbean situation. And a lot of us feel that they're not getting a fair shake. We know the Tea Party and the Republicans, how they feel about it. And they are fighting Obama about everything that he has presented. It gives us a great deal of pleasure and, of course, satisfaction to have our special guest on the program today. We're talking about a proven attorney by the name of Ana Maria Bazan, who has been kind enough to give us the opportunity to sit down here in the Queen's Grapevine to talk about all these issues that affect us one way or the other. Whether we're here legally or illegally, each and one of us know and have family that these things affect. It gives us, again, great pleasure to have her on our program. Welcome to our program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good. Well, you know, one of the things that we wanted to talk a little bit is about this new defer action that the president talked about. We know that this is a tough period for him, but I think he has stepped up to the plate with some good ideas, and we wanted you to take the opportunity a little bit to talk to us about that and then educate our viewing audience. That's how it works.
Sure. So deferred action is an administrative relief by the immigration authorities to prevent an alien, as they call them, or an undocumented person, as I prefer to call them, not to deport them. It is not legal status per se. It's just temporary relief not to be deported. And just certain people qualify for it. There's different, I guess, categories. There's DAPA, right, which is deferred action for parental accountability.
Right.
There's the extension of DACA, which is deferred action for childhood arrivals. And then there's the extension of provisional waiver that occurred in the past on March 4th of 2013. So the president's announcement on November 20th brings a lot of extensions and changes, and that is not just about DAPA, right? But we're going to begin talking about who qualifies for DAPA first, and then we'll talk about the other extensions.
Sure, because there are various things involved, and you know, we want to have the opportunity to sort of view in the audience know the pros and cons about it. So just please feel free to go ahead.
No problem. So who qualifies for DAPA? A parent of a United States citizen or legal permanent resident of the United States. So if you're a parent of a citizen or a legal permanent resident of the U.S., no matter what age they are, you qualify for DAPA. Now, that's number one. Number two, you have to continuously have been in the U.S. continuously since January 1st of 2010 to the present, okay? So we're going to talk about what documents you need to prove that a little bit later, but let's just go through the eligibility requirements. You also need physical presence on November 20th of 2014. Yes, that specific date. So if you went to the bank on that day, you made a deposit or a withdrawal, or you called your relatives and you have your phone log to document it, that's really, really crucial right now.
Proof.
Proof. So if you don't have proof of November 20th, 2014, you can find proof around that date. So right before or right after, since we're still in December, you can still make some transactions and create that proof because it's still pretty close to November 20th.
So the proof is a must.
It's a must. You have to have physical presence on that date, correct. And you cannot be an enforcement priority. On November 20th, USCIS, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, published many memorandum indicating what DAPA means, what the extension of DACA means, all the details. And in one of the memoranda, they talk about who's a priority for being deported. Okay, so those who are a priority for being deported should not apply for DAPA.
So in other words, they don't qualify, period.
Correct, because they're a priority to be deported. And I can give you a list of those.
I would love to know the priority of that because, again, we're trying to educate the public. So when we talk about the priorities, so we're talking about people that doesn't qualify. Who and under what condition they fall under that?
Sure. For example, somebody who threatens the national security of the U.S. would be a priority. Somebody who's a gang member would be a priority. Somebody who has committed a felony. Somebody who has committed 3 or more misdemeanors.
Wow.
Unrelated to traffic violations. So if you have a ticket, a lot of people ask me these questions.
Sure.
If you have a ticket, or if you have 2 tickets or 3 tickets, is that a problem? No, traffic violations are usually not a problem, okay? I mean, they can become a problem if you don't pay the tickets and you accumulate them, or 10 or so accumulate, and then you have a warrant for your arrest because you never showed up to court, you never paid your tickets. But usually that wouldn't be a problem. Another priority for the government to be deported would be a significant misdemeanor that's related to domestic violence, sexual abuse, illegal possession of a weapon,
Drugs.
burglary, drugs, okay? And also people who entered after January 1st of 2014 are also a priority. So anybody who entered before should be okay, unless they have other, convictions and other problems, right? And so though, in general terms, those are the priorities. But I emphasize to the public that they should consult with an attorney, with an experienced immigration attorney, about their criminal record, about any issues that they have or had with immigration or the law, because every case is different. Last night I was conducting a training, and one of the questions that they asked me was, well, I had a charge of domestic violence, and I think my case was dismissed. Is that a problem? Remember that charges are different than convictions. So you can be charged with murder,
Sure.
but you can be convicted of nothing, disorderly conduct, or it could be dismissed because they arrested me by mistake. They arrested the person by mistake.
So it was dismissed, just
Right.
for argument's sake. Right.
So if it was dismissed, there's no conviction. Okay, so I don't want the public to analyze that. I want you to go to an attorney, a reliable person in our nonprofit organization that is BIA accredited, okay, that can represent you and can give you legal advice, because that's very delicate.
And rightfully so. Someone who knows the laws and knows interpretation. So as such, you should seek professional advice, not a fly-by-night person or a friend that you think you know. Go to the proper person, as she clearly mentioned, that can guide you in the right direction as to whether you qualify or whether you're in trouble or not.
Yes, it is very dangerous for people to apply when they don't qualify, because they will be referred to immigration court proceedings and they may be removed or deported if they are a priority for the government. So please be careful.
Very interesting. It's very clear that you need to understand this because a lot of people seem to be very excited about DAPA right now, but it has a lot of pros and cons, and you should know what you're walking into. And I think the president have made a major move to help those who have their parent here or a citizen and they're like in a cliffhanger situation. So when we talk about DAPA, as Ms. Bazan just mentioned, seek the proper help so you know whether you should apply or not and whether it makes sense for you to apply or not.
Correct.
Now, let's talk a little bit about where does this thing stand with the president? In some of the research that we did, we understand that it is a temporary situation. Can you walk us through that? Because my understanding is for a 3-year period, and I want to find out, is it really a 3-year period? Mm-hmm. And after that, what happened?
Mm-hmm. Sure. First of all, again, there's a lot of speculation about whether this has actually happened. In other words, they say, well, are you sure that the Republicans are not going to now take it away? And is it really happening? I said to them, yes, it already happened on November 20th, okay? What we don't have is the application yet, okay? The application is coming on May 19th or before of 2015, in 180 days from November 20th, 2014, when the president announced it. But your question is about how long, we have this DAPA for. So the status is for 3 years. It appears to be that it will be renewable. We're not 100% sure at this point for how long, because we don't know what would happen with other presidents to come. I highly doubt that they will get rid of DAPA. They haven't gotten rid of DACA, and I think it will be very difficult. I can't imagine 5 million people being deported after having a work permit, after getting DAPA, not to be deported, after not being a priority. It doesn't make any sense. So I would say that it's not a problem for people. People shouldn't fear applying and being in the system so long as they're not a priority, right? They shouldn't fear applying for this. They should apply for it. But remember, there's no application right now. It's coming on May 19th, but it doesn't mean it hasn't passed because the law hasn't changed. The president hasn't changed the law. You would need Congress to approve it. What the president has changed is a process, it's a procedure. He has extended within his means, and legally so, what he could possibly extend. And I think that people who do qualify shouldn't be afraid so long as they consult with a proper advisor, attorney, or lawyer.
I think the key component right here is that this is a process that's going to take place based on what the president presented on November 20th. If you do qualify, or you go to the proper legal person to find out if you qualify and you do qualify, take advantage of it. Don't worry about 3 years down the road right now, okay? Take the opportunity where if you qualify, you'll have the protection of the government to work and stuff like that. Worry about 3 years down the road. Take advantage of this great opportunity that you never had before, okay? So as such, you must ride on that. But I think what some of them might have concern about is the behavior of the Republican Party, the Tea Party, who have put roadblocks in everything that the president tried to do. And again, you can't answer that, but I would say that right now, even as you mentioned, if a new president come aboard down the road, he would have to deal with that. Any feelings one way or the other about that?
I highly doubt, no matter which president comes after Obama, I highly doubt that they would take away DAPA or DACA for the millions of undocumented people, because if you add the 5 million undocumented that qualify for DAPA plus the 1.5 million that qualify for DACA, you're talking about 6.5 million people and families. My guess is that one day the reform will pass, which with whoever comes into power eventually. But right now, I wouldn't be afraid to move forward and apply for what you what you can, what you qualify for.
I couldn't agree with you more. When we get back at the Queen's Grapevine, we'll continue talking about immigration issues. And as I said to you, November 20th, the president stepped up to the plate, trying to solve these immigration issues that we're facing and that most of us as Americans are concerned about. You have the pros, the cons, those who want to solve it and give the opportunity of those who are not here properly documented to be part of the American dream that each and every one of us want. Again, we will continue talking about this as we move forward. We'll be right back on the Queen's Grapevine.
Whenever you go all the way to the detention center and you see it's just, I just cannot imagine my husband in there.
The mandate is a disaster. I mean, you don't see that in any other law enforcement context where legislative bodies basically forcing law enforcement to detain a certain number of people.
You have to put the numbers in context. So only 1.7% of ICE's caseload is in the detention center. So it's a very select group of people.
Most detention facilities are in very remote areas, and families have to travel very long distances to be able to visit. And then most of them, of course, are in financial crisis, or at least in some sort of financial distress, because one of the breadwinners, and usually the primary breadwinner, is detained. They no longer have that income.
I mean, I know it's a jail, I know it's a prison, but I never thought that they would treat them like criminals. There's big, huge balls of razor wire and double fences, just like they were somebody that had murdered somebody or something, you know. It hurts me to see that my husband's lost so much weight. The first time I saw him, I was just, he said the look on your face was like the worst thing you ever seen in your life. And I said, no, I didn't mean it that way. It was just how much you had changed. How much you had changed and how much different you look.
We've worked with so many families that have decided not to bring their children to visit their fathers, even though they know it will be the last time that their children will be able to see their fathers for many years. And the reason for that is that, again, their fathers are treated, they're wearing the jumpsuits, they're behind glass, there's the telephone, and the parents tell us that they just don't want their last memory to be this memory.
The numbers of people detained have in the past decade gone up tremendously for no good reason. And so, we need to look at who's making money off of the detention of immigrants. Why are we detaining 34,000 people where a lot of them could be out living with their communities and not posing this type of enormous cost to taxpayers?
They provide jobs, they provide opportunities in some of those counties where past agricultural and some of the jobs that have left those areas has filled the gap.
Still in Irwin County, there's a population of less than 10,000 people, and at current, there's almost 200 employees out there the largest private employer inside of the city of Osceola or in Urban County.
Chicken tender pie double fried.
I feed a lot of people from all over the county and surrounding counties that come back into the work. And then they come here and eat all the time, probably $400, $500, $600 worth of business a week, just for my little business. We need it, and it's been a plus for Urban County.
And we're back here in the Queen's Grapevine. Tonight in Queen's Grapevine, we're talking about immigration issues, and we are extremely thankful and appreciative to have a very qualified attorney who has been kind enough to be your guest here in the Queen's Grapevine to talk about all these sensitive issues. Immigration issue is another one of the things that in America that a lot of us is concerned. You have the pros and you have the cons on it, those who are in favor of immigration and those who are not. So we think that these are important things to talk about, and our responsibility as a host of a program is to talk about the various issues. And again, we are so pleased to have an attorney, Ana Maria Bazan, who has been so kind to be here discussing these sensitive things. So, Ana Maria, one of the things that we were concerned, and we went back and forth a little bit, covering a lot of territory, what happened if there's a stepchild in the picture? How would that work?
Sure.
And what are the pros and cons, something like that?
Sure. In order to establish the step-parent, step-child relationship under the immigration laws, you have to have been married. Say you're the stepfather, okay? You have to have married the mother of this child before the child turns 18 by November 20th of 2014 in order to qualify for DAPA as a stepfather. So what does that mean? If you're the stepfather of someone and you're not married to the mother currently, then you're not, for immigration purposes, the stepfather and cannot benefit for DAPA.
Wow. Wow.
You have to have been married before the child turned 18, and for DAPA, that had to have occurred by November 20th of 2014.
If not, they're out of the picture.
Correct.
Very, very tough. And I guess one of the things that kind of hurt also, if the child becomes 18 or over 18, they're also out of the picture.
Well, only for stepchild and stepfather
right.
relationship. Right.
Okay.
So if you didn't marry the mother before they were 18, say you are married to the mother now,
Mm-hmm.
but you married the mother when the child was 20, then you're not the stepfather for immigration purposes. So how can you qualify for DAPA if you don't have a U.S. citizen child? Right?
Interesting.
So you wouldn't qualify, and that leaves a lot of people out, unfortunately.
That's why when we started the program, we talk about going to the right avenues to get answers, to know the pros and cons. And this is exactly what we're talking about. We have an experienced attorney who's an immigration attorney who have the answers to these issues, so that you know when you get into this process, you know exactly where you're going and you know the do's and don'ts. We cover quite a few things. Can we cover a little bit about DACA?
Sure.
Can you break it down a little bit to us, the
Sure.
meaning of it and the process of it?
Sure. As many of you know, DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, was already implemented. The first DACA was already implemented back in 2012. But what the president has done is extend DACA in 3 ways. The first is the timing. So if you entered before the age of 16, that's still a requirement, before January 1st of 2010, you would qualify now. It used to be June of 2007. Now it's January 1st of 2010. So he has extended the time, number one. Number two, it doesn't matter what age you are now. You can still qualify for DACA if you're 30, 40, 60, 80. It doesn't matter so long as you entered prior to being 16 years old. That didn't used to be in the first DACA. In the first DACA, you had to be 31, I think in 2012. There was an age requirement. Now, no longer. So it gives you, right, the first, the second, and the third point is that it's no longer 2 years. They implemented DACA for 2 years initially, and now there's an extension for 3 years. So instead of getting DACA for a 2-year period, you will get it for 3 years. So what happens to the people that applied for an extension and only got it for 2 years? Is the USCIS, the Immigration Service, going to extend them another year? And the answer is yes, they will. They haven't said exactly how yet. They will give us probably an application, or I don't know how it will be done. They haven't told us yet, but they will. And the applications for DACA are going to be ready in 90 days after November 20th, so sometime in February we should expect of 2015.
So again, we go back to how important it is to talk to an attorney, a qualified attorney that understand the rules, the laws, and the implementation. So there you are. We talked about the extension, how important the extension was on DACA for those who didn't get the opportunity the first time.
Well, it's important for the people who turn out to be 32 before and they couldn't apply, and they were like, oh my God, for a year or for 6 months or for a week. So I think it's going to make a lot of people happy that they are going to qualify no matter what age they are. Mm-hmm. So I think, I really don't know the numbers of how many people would qualify, for this extension, but I think it's a good extension for them, especially for the age and the years, right? Mm-hmm. So it covers three additional years, which makes a big difference.
Okay. Well, Ana Maria, I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the family at Grapevine to tell you thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about these immigration issues. Obviously, half an hour is not enough time to cover all the convoluted situations and sensitive, but we're going to do a part 2 when we get back to give you the opportunity to educate or view an audience, which is a very, very large audience that we have in Queens, Long Island, Westchester, and part of Manhattan.
Thank you very much.
We don't have words to thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And again, this is Wallen Ferdley saying goodnight for the Queen's Grapevine and saying to you, we hope that you've gotten a few answers out of a program of this magnitude that covers so many different sensitive issues about immigrations, things that affect your families and some of the young people right here in the country that are not documented and are trying to get their papers together. And again, thank you so much for watching our program, and we hope to see you next week at the same place at the same time. Good night.